I walked into Ella's dining room that night with my stomach in knots. It was supposed to be our anniversary. 12 years. Not perfect years, but years I thought we'd survive together. Mark had texted earlier saying something had come up, but my gut told me to check anyway. Something in the way he dismissed me with a half-hearted excuse didn't sit right. The restaurant was buzzing, glasses clinking, laughter spilling from polished tables. I scanned the room and froze. There he was, my husband, sitting at the table we'd reserved weeks ago, the one we'd talked about endlessly, planning to splurge because 12 years deserves something special. Except he wasn't with me. She sat across from him, leaning in too close, her hand brushing his wrist like it belonged there. She was young, maybe late 20s, long waves of highlighted hair, a low-cut dress that looked painted on. My breath caught, and for a second, I thought maybe my eyes were lying to me. But then I saw the champagne flutes, the roses on the table, the ones he told me were a surprise. My chest tightened. I walked closer, my heels clicking against the hardwood. Heads started turning. I knew people were watching, and maybe I wanted them to. If this was how he wanted to humiliate me, then let the whole damn city see. Mark. My voice cut through the chatter. He jerked his head up, color draining from his face. Ashley, what are you— You canceled our anniversary dinner, I said, loud enough that the nearest tables went silent. But you didn't cancel. You just replaced me. The girl shifted uncomfortably, her smile slipping. Maybe we should— Shut up, I snapped, eyes locked on him. Do you know how pathetic this looks? Parading your mistress at the exact table we reserved for our marriage? People were pulling out their phones. I could see the screens glowing, recording every second. The humiliation should have drowned me, but rage steadied me. I'd given this man everything. My inheritance, my loyalty, my time. And here he was, handing our night to a stranger like it meant nothing. Mark stood, hands up like he could calm the storm. Ash, you're making a scene. No, Mark, I spat. You made the scene. I'm just the audience catching up. Gasps rippled across the room. The girl, Jenna, I would later learn, reached for her clutch, clearly wishing she could vanish into thin air. You don't understand, he started. I cut him off. I understand perfectly. You wanted me out of the picture so you could play doting husband to someone else. You wanted her to sit where I should have been, drink the champagne I should have sipped, get the roses I should have held. My voice cracked, but I pushed through, because weakness wasn't an option. Not now. And you thought I'd never find out. You thought I'd just sit at home waiting for you while you destroyed everything we built. He reached for my arm. Ashley, let's go outside and talk about this. I yanked away so hard his hand hung in the air like dead weight. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. The restaurant was silent now, all eyes on us, and I wanted him to feel it, to burn under the same spotlight he shoved me into. So I leaned in, close enough for only the first few rows of spectators to hear, and hissed, You just lost the best thing that ever happened to you, and you don't even realize it yet. Then I straightened, lifted my chin, and without hesitation, slapped him across the face. The sound cracked like a gunshot. Gasps erupted. He staggered back, clutching his cheek, eyes wide with shock. I turned to Jenna, who looked pale, frozen. Congratulations, I said flatly. Enjoy my leftovers. And with that, I grabbed the roses from the table, tossed them onto the floor, and walked out. Every step felt like reclaiming something he had stolen. My pride, my voice, my fire. The night air hit me hard outside, crisp against my tear-streaked cheeks. My legs trembled, but I didn't stop. I walked down the street with people still staring from inside, my heart pounding like war drums. I wasn't the broken wife walking away from her cheating husband. Not anymore. That was the night Ashley Holmes died, and the woman who vowed revenge was born. When I got home that night, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the wall while the house hummed with silence. My hands were still shaking from the slap, But what burned even more was the history behind it. 12 years together, and I realized I had been blind for most of them. Mark and I met in Sacramento when I was 24, working in real estate. He was charming then, the kind of man who could walk into a room and talk to anyone. I fell fast, and maybe that was my first mistake. Within a year, we were married, building a life I thought was solid. He had big dreams of starting his own construction firm, but dreams don't pay bills. My inheritance from my grandmother did. Without hesitation, I poured thousands into him, paying off his student loans, helping him lease equipment, covering our mortgage when his big contracts took too long to come in. I told myself it was an investment in our future. I gave up more than money. When I got pregnant with our daughter, Lily, I stepped back from a promotion that would have moved me to San Francisco. Mark convinced me Sacramento was where his business could thrive. I told myself family came first. I told myself love meant compromise. What I didn't realize was that every compromise chipped away at who I was, until one day my entire life revolved around keeping him afloat. There were warning signs, of course. Nights where he worked late, but didn't answer calls. Receipts I'd find stuffed in his pockets from bars I'd never been to. The faint smell of perfume on his jacket that wasn't mine. Every time, I asked. Every time, he gave me excuses so smooth I almost believed them. Client meetings, supplier dinners. Must have been a waitress. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. Because admitting the truth would mean admitting I had built my entire life on a lie. Even Lily noticed things. She's 9 now, smart and sharp in ways that scare me. A week before the anniversary, she mentioned she'd seen Daddy at the park with Aunt Jenna. That's what he told her to call the woman. I brushed it off. Told myself maybe it was a client's niece or a family friend. But Lily looked at me with eyes too wise for her age and said, "Mom?" She held his hand. My heart sank, but still I tried to protect her from the ugly truth. I didn't want her to carry that weight. I should have listened then. Instead, I went to the restaurant that night, thinking maybe, just maybe, he had planned some kind of surprise. Maybe he'd make up for all the cracks that had been forming between us. Instead, I got my answer in front of an entire dining room. The stakes couldn't be higher. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about my sacrifices, my money, my career, my daughter's future. Everything I had built was tied to him, and he treated it like trash. I realized in that moment that if I didn't fight, if I didn't take control, I'd be left with nothing. He'd drain me dry and then walk away laughing, hand in hand with someone younger, fresher, and dumber. I thought back to all the years I'd played the role of supportive wife, clapping for his small wins, cheering him on when deals closed, holding him up when he failed. And for what? For him to hand my chair at our anniversary dinner to his mistress? No. That night changed me. I couldn't undo what Lily saw, what I saw, or what the world recorded on their phones. But I could make damn sure that every ounce of pain he caused me would be repaid tenfold. By the time the sun came up, I knew this wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about justice. And justice would be mine. The morning after the restaurant, I woke up in a fog. My eyes were swollen from crying, my head pounding, my throat raw from holding back screams. But somewhere in the haze, a voice cut through. Enough. I sat up in bed and looked around the house. Our house, the one my inheritance helped buy. Every piece of furniture, every wall painted, every bill paid, had my fingerprints on it. And suddenly I realized, this wasn't his kingdom. It was mine. I had built this life. And if anyone was going to lose it, it wouldn't be me. By the time I poured my first cup of coffee, my mind was already racing through steps like a checklist. No tears, no begging, no waiting for explanations. It was time to act. The first call I made was to the bank. My voice shook a little, but I forced myself steady as I explained I wanted to freeze our joint accounts immediately. Suspicious activity, I told them, which wasn't a lie, just not the kind they assumed. Within minutes, his access was cut off. The thought of him trying to swipe his card for another lavish dinner and finding out it was declined gave me a rush I hadn't felt in months. Next, I transferred what was left of my inheritance from the investment account into my personal checking. That money had been the backbone of everything he bragged about. The down payment for this house, the seed money for his company, the safety net during lean years. I wasn't about to let him drain it dry to impress his mistress with vacations and jewelry. Then I called a lawyer, not the family friend who had handled our house papers. No, I wanted someone ruthless. I spent an hour scrolling through reviews, and when I found a woman with a reputation for dismantling cheating husbands piece by piece, I booked a consultation. Her assistant's tone was brisk, professional. "We'll get you in this week," she promised. Just hearing those words gave me strength. By midday, I was moving through the house with boxes. I didn't pack everything. Not yet. Just the essentials for me and Lily. Clothes, documents, photos I couldn't bear to leave behind. I moved fast, almost mechanically, like if I stopped to think too hard, the weight of it would crush me. Lily was at school, and I wanted her to come home to a version of me that wasn't shattered. I opened his office drawer and found receipts, business cards, even a hotel key card. My hands shook as I stuffed them into a folder. Evidence. Proof. If he thought he'd gaslight me in court, he had another thing coming. The phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. His first message, "Ashley, let's talk. You overreacted." Then, "Please don't do anything stupid." By the fifth call, his tone shifted to anger. "You don't have the right to touch our money." I ignored every single one. Let him stew. Let him feel powerless. For once, I was the one pulling strings. By evening, I had spoken to a realtor friend about the house. I didn't tell her everything, just enough to make her understand I might be listing soon. "Take your time," she said gently, but I could hear the edge in her voice. She knew. Sacramento is smaller than it feels, and gossip travels fast. When Lily came home, I hugged her tighter than usual. She asked why boxes were in the living room, and I told her we might spend some time at Grandma's. Her eyes searched mine, and I knew she sensed the truth. Kids always know more than we think. That night, as I tucked her into bed, my phone lit up with another call from Mark. This time, I answered. "Ashley, what the hell is going on? My card got declined at lunch. I can't access anything. Did you—" "Yes," I cut in, my voice calm. "I did. You can't just—" "I can. And I did. You made your choice when you sat at that table with her. Now I'm making mine." There was silence, broken only by his ragged breathing. "We can fix this," he tried. "It doesn't have to be—" "It already is," I said, and hung up. I stared at the phone, my heart pounding, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt awake. I felt dangerous. That night, I lay in bed with Lily's soft breathing down the hall, and I made myself a promise. I would dismantle him piece by piece. His money, his reputation, his fake empire, everything he took for granted, everything he thought he controlled, I would strip it away until he was left with nothing but the ruins of his own betrayal. And I would do it without shedding another tear. By the next morning, the dominoes were already falling. Mark's first consequence came fast and loud. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed with a string of furious messages. "What the hell did you do? My card got declined again. I had to walk out of the store embarrassed like some broke teenager." Then another. "You think this is funny? You're sabotaging me." I didn't answer. Let him choke on his pride. For once, the embarrassment was his to carry. By noon, he showed up at the house. I spotted his truck from the window and told myself not to flinch. He pounded on the door, shouting my name. Lily was at school, thank God, so I had space to deal with him without scaring her. I opened the door just enough to make my presence known. His eyes were wild, his voice a mix of fury and desperation. "You can't just cut me off like this, Ash. I need access to those accounts. I have employees to pay." I folded my arms. "Not my problem. You should have thought about that before parading your girlfriend around town with our money." His jaw clenched. "It's not like that." "Really?" I shot back, because the video of you at Ella says otherwise. His face drained. What video? You think no one was recording? Half the damn restaurant had their phones out. By now, it's probably making the rounds. Congratulations, Mark. You're Sacramento's new cautionary tale. He cursed under his breath, then tried to soften. Ash, don't do this. We can talk it through. I stared at him, letting the silence stretch until his bravado cracked. Then I shut the door in his face. That afternoon, calls started trickling in from friends. One of my closest, Julia, texted, "Saw what happened at Ella. Are you okay?" Another messaged, "If you need anything, I've got your back. Don't let him spin this." The whispers had already started, but for once they weren't aimed at me. They were aimed at him. By evening, Julia called to tell me Mark had been spotted at a bar downtown, trying to laugh it off with his buddies. "Except no one's buying it," she said. "People are saying you finally had enough, and honestly, everyone's on your side." I felt a flicker of relief. I'd spent so many years worrying about appearances, about what people would say if our marriage cracked. Now that it had shattered publicly, the reaction was the opposite of what I feared. Instead of pity, there was respect. Instead of whispers of blame, there was sympathy. Meanwhile, his mistress wasn't faring much better. 2 days later, I heard from another friend that Jenna had been pulled aside at work. Someone had seen the video and recognized her. She worked at a marketing firm where reputation mattered, and apparently the higher-ups weren't thrilled about her newfound fame. Word was she left the office red-faced and tight-lipped. Good. She wanted to step into my life? She could feel the fire that came with it. Even his own family didn't shield him. Mark's mother called me, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Ashley, I don't know what to say. I didn't raise him to be like this." I could hear the shame in her tone. I almost felt sorry for her, but then I remembered the look on Lily's face when she told me about Aunt Jenna. I stayed firm. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them. There was a pause. Then she whispered, "If you need help with Lily, you can count on me." That offer meant more than she realized. The business fallout came quicker than I expected. Mark called me late one night, his voice slurred, clearly drunk. "You don't understand what you've done," he slurred. "Investors are pulling out. People think I'm unstable. They're blaming you for this mess." I laughed bitterly. "Oh no, Mark. They're blaming you. You brought this on yourself." Click. The ripple effects spread wider each day. Acquaintances who had always smiled politely now reached out with little nods of support, as if I had done something brave by finally standing up. At Lily's school, another mom stopped me in the parking lot and said quietly, "Good for you. Don't let him walk all over you." It stunned me how many people had probably suspected or seen the cracks before I did. How many had waited for me to see what was right in front of me. And Mark? He was unraveling. His texts shifted from rage to bargaining. "Let's work something out. I'll cut it off with her." Then to threats. "You're ruining me, Ash. If I go down, you go down too." But he was wrong. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to his downfall. I was orchestrating it. The real turning point came when Lily caught me boxing up more of our things. She stood in the doorway, holding her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide. "Mom, are we moving?" I knelt down and smoothed her hair. "We might, sweetie. Just somewhere safe for us." "Because of Daddy?" she asked quietly. I swallowed hard. "Because Daddy made some bad choices. But we're going to be okay." She nodded, then said something that stopped me cold. "Good. Because I don't like Aunt Jenna. She smiles too much." I hugged her so tight she squealed. In that moment, I knew I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for her, for the kind of life she deserved. And if Mark thought he could claw his way back, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. 2 weeks later, I was invited to a family dinner at Mark's parents' house. At first, I almost declined. The thought of sitting across from him again, pretending for appearances, made my stomach twist. But then I realized, this wasn't about pretending. This was about control. His family deserved to see the truth, unfiltered. And I wanted him to feel the ground give way beneath him with witnesses who mattered. When Lily and I arrived, the dining room was already buzzing. His parents, his brother, his sister-in-law, a few cousins, all gathered around the long oak table. Mark was there too, trying to look composed in a pressed shirt, his smile brittle. The second he saw me walk in, his expression faltered. "Ashley?" his mother said warmly, pulling me into a hug. "I'm glad you came." Mark cleared his throat, trying to steer control. "We're here to talk things through like adults," he said. I sat down across from him, my daughter beside me. "Perfect," I replied, "because I've got a few things to say." Dinner began stiffly. Conversation was shallow, forced. Mark tried to steer it toward his business, bragging about new deals he was finalizing. I bit my tongue until I couldn't anymore. "Interesting," I said loudly, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Because from what I hear, most of your investors pulled out after Ella." The table went quiet. His father's fork clattered against his plate. "What's she talking about?" Mark shot me a glare. "Ashley, this isn't the time." "Oh, I think it is," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I spread the contents across the table. Receipts from hotel stays, credit card charges for dinners, the champagne bill from Ella. "You wanted to talk like adults? Let's show them the truth." Gasps filled the room. His sister-in-law's hand flew to her mouth. His brother muttered something under his breath. "Those aren't what you think," Mark stammered, reaching across the table to snatch the papers. I slapped my hand down on them before he could. "Don't. You've lied enough. These are your words, your signatures, your charges. You didn't just cheat on me. You funded your affair with our money. With my inheritance." His father's face turned red. "Is this true?" he demanded. Mark opened his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance. He canceled our anniversary dinner so he could wine and dine his mistress. At Ella, at our table, in front of half the city. You've all probably seen the video by now. A cousin pulled out his phone, scrolling quickly. "It's online," he whispered. "Over 10,000 views already." Mark's composure shattered. "It's not how it looks." "Stop," I snapped. "For once, stop insulting everyone's intelligence. You sat across from another woman with champagne and roses meant for me. You humiliated me in public. You lied to your daughter. And now you're sitting here pretending you're the victim." The room buzzed with tension. His mother looked down, ashamed. His brother leaned forward. "You've dragged this family's name through the mud, Mark. You think investors want to tie themselves to someone going viral for cheating?" Mark's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to—" I stood, pushing my chair back. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. "You meant every bit of it. You thought I'd stay silent. You thought I'd keep protecting your image while you destroyed mine. But I'm done being your cover story." I gathered the papers into the folder, then looked straight at him. "You want a mic drop? Here's one. From this moment on, every single person in this room knows the truth. And they'll tell it. You don't control the narrative anymore. I do." His sister-in-law whispered, "God, Mark." His father shook his head, muttering, "You've shamed us." And then, like a scene from a play, Jenna walked through the door. She had the nerve to show up, probably invited by Mark behind everyone's back. She froze when she saw me standing there, folder in hand, eyes blazing. "Oh," I said, my voice cutting. "Perfect timing." Gasps rippled again as she stepped into the dining room, her face pale. "I didn't know." "Save it," I said. "You knew exactly what you were walking into. You're not just the other woman. You're the punchline to his biggest lie." The room buzzed with whispers. Someone stifled a laugh. Jenna's face crumbled, and she turned to Mark. "You told me this was handled." Mark buried his face in his hands. "Ashley, please." But I wasn't listening. I tucked the folder under my arm, grabbed Lily's hand, and looked around the table. I'm not here to ask for sympathy. I'm here to make one thing clear. This man built his life on my sacrifices and tore it down with his choices, and I'm not going down with him. I turned to Lily, who looked up at me with wide, steady eyes. We're leaving. As we walked out, the silence behind us was deafening, until his father's voice broke it, heavy and final. You've disgraced yourself, son. Don't expect this family to clean up your mess. That was the moment I knew the tide had fully turned. He wasn't just losing me. He was losing them. And this time, it wasn't a slap in a restaurant. It was a public execution, carried out with nothing but truth. After the dinner at his parents' house, I thought Mark might finally accept reality. But instead, he did what men like him always do. He tried to spin the story. 3 days later, a clip of him appeared on Facebook, shared by a local gossip page. He was standing outside his office, trying to look calm for a reporter's mic. There are 2 sides to every marriage, he said with that fake smile he used to sell contracts. Ashley has her struggles. She's emotional, she overreacts. I'm just asking people not to believe everything they see online. I almost laughed. Overreacts? He turned my slap in the restaurant into a soundbite, painting me as some hysterical wife who lost control. But what he didn't realize was that his PR stunt only added fuel to the fire. By evening, the video had thousands of views and hundreds of comments, and they weren't in his favor. This guy really cheated on his wife in public and now wants sympathy? Bro, she didn't overreact. She underreacted. Someone get this clown a PR team that knows what they're doing. The hashtag started next. Team Ashley. Ella dinner disaster. Construction clown. Memes spread with screenshots of him at Ella, side by side with crying laughing emojis. Someone even made a TikTok of me slapping him, set to a drum beat, and it hit 50,000 likes in 2 days. His phone must have been buzzing nonstop, because mine was too. Friends sent me links with laughing emojis, cousins texted their support, even coworkers from years ago messaged me on Instagram. Good for you, Ash. He deserved it. At first, I wanted to hide. I hadn't asked for this spotlight. But then I realized this was exactly what he feared most, losing control of the narrative, watching the world laugh at him instead of respect him. So I leaned in. With my lawyer's advice, I started leaking. Not anonymously, not sneakily. Just enough receipts to the right people. Screenshots of texts he sent Jenna, receipts for jewelry he claimed he bought for me, hotel bookings during business trips. All of it was damning, and all of it painted the picture he wanted to hide. A Sacramento blogger picked it up, publishing a piece titled, From Power Couple to Public Scandal, The Holmes Affair. Within hours, it was trending locally. People who had never heard of us now knew his name, and not in the way he wanted. His attempt at damage control got desperate. He posted a long Facebook rant, calling me vindictive, saying I was weaponizing personal struggles to ruin a man's career. But the internet doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. Screenshots of his rant were reposted with mocking captions. One reply summed it up perfectly. Weaponizing personal struggles? My guy, you weaponized your anniversary reservation. The fallout spread to his business. A major client pulled out of a contract, citing reputation concerns. His office phone was flooded with prank calls. Someone left a Yelp review for his construction firm that read, "Builds houses as well as he builds excuses for cheating." It racked up dozens of helpful votes. Meanwhile, Jenna vanished. Her social media went private, her once braggy posts deleted. Word was she'd quit her job after co-workers couldn't resist bringing up Dash Ella dinner disaster every time she walked in. She was a ghost now, collateral damage in a war she thought she could win. And Mark? He was unraveling in real time. Late one night, he called me again, his voice hoarse. "Ashley, you have to stop this. You're destroying me." I stayed silent, letting him sweat. "You don't understand," he continued. "I can't show my face without people whispering. I can't go online without being tagged in some meme. Please, you've made your point." Finally, I spoke. "No, Mark, I'm just getting started. You wanted to humiliate me in public. Now you're finding out what real humiliation feels like." Click. The next morning, his face was plastered across a local news segment. The anchor spoke with that careful tone reporters use when they know they're about to stir the pot. Sacramento businessman Mark Holmes faces growing backlash after a viral video showed his wife confronting him at Ella Dining Room on their anniversary night. The hashtag #TeamAshley has trended for 3 days straight. Holmes denies the allegations, but new evidence continues to surface. Evidence. That was me. I watched the clip with my coffee, calm as ever. For years, I had been the silent supporter in the background, holding our world together. Now, the spotlight was mine, and it was burning him alive. By the end of the week, his name was synonymous with betrayal. He wasn't Mark Holmes the contractor anymore. He was the Ella guy, the punchline, the meme, the cautionary tale. And there was no PR campaign in the world that could save him. By the time the divorce proceedings started, Mark was already bleeding. Socially, financially, emotionally, the cracks were everywhere. All I had to do was widen them. My lawyer, Claire Donovan, was a shark in heels. She had one of those no-nonsense voices that cut through excuses like glass. "You've got the receipts, Ashley. He's cooked his own goose. We'll secure custody, assets, and restitution for what you put into his business. He won't see this coming." Court filings went in fast. Divorce petition, custody request, asset division. And because I had documented everything, from hotel receipts to screenshots of him admitting mistakes in late-night texts, Claire had ammunition. The first hearing was brutal. Mark walked in trying to look collected in his tailored suit, but the sweat on his collar betrayed him. He tried to smile at me like we could play this civil, but I didn't flinch. I sat tall, Lily's photo tucked in my bag like a quiet reminder of why I was there. When Claire laid out the financials, the room shifted. She itemized the inheritance money I had poured into his company, the mortgage payments I covered, the bills he ignored while buying hotel rooms for Jenna. "Mrs. Holmes has been the backbone of this marriage financially and emotionally," she said. "Mr. Holmes has exploited her contributions while betraying their vows. We are seeking not only divorce, but full custody and restitution." Mark's lawyer tried to paint me as vengeful. "She's leveraging this scandal to humiliate him publicly." I leaned forward, locking eyes with the judge. He humiliated me. In public, on our anniversary. "I'm just making sure my daughter doesn't pay the price for his choices." That landed. I could see it in the judge's expression. Outside of court, the financial freefall accelerated. Contracts evaporated. Clients pulled out. His construction firm, once his pride, was now a liability. Without my inheritance propping it up, the debts were exposed. Unpaid suppliers, maxed out credit lines, loans coming due. One by one, his employees quit. Some of them even reached out to me privately. "We're sorry, Ashley. We knew something was off, but we didn't realize how bad it was." And his family? They didn't shield him either. His father, a stoic man who had once praised Mark for being a provider, called me personally. "Ashley," he said, his voice heavy, "I won't excuse what my son did. You do what you need to do for Lily. He'll get no bailout from me." That hit Mark harder than he admitted. For years, he had leaned on his father for credibility, flashing his family name to open doors. Now that door was slammed shut. Then came custody. That was the hill I was prepared to die on. Mark wanted shared custody, insisting he was still a good father. Claire eviscerated that argument with one folder of evidence: late nights out, drinking binges, hotel receipts during weekends he was supposed to be home. The judge looked unimpressed as Mark stammered about work stress. When it was my turn, I told the truth. "I want Lily to have a father, but I won't let her grow up thinking this kind of behavior is normal. She deserves stability, honesty, and safety. Right now, I'm the only one who can give her that." The judge awarded me primary custody with supervised visitation for him until he could demonstrate responsible behavior. His face crumpled when the ruling was read. Mine didn't move. Meanwhile, Jenna completely disappeared from his life. Whether she dumped him or he dumped her didn't matter. The last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents, her career derailed by the scandal. She had wanted the fantasy of being with a man who looked successful. Instead, she got dragged down in the wreckage of his lies. Mark was alone. No allies, no mistress, no family backing him up. Just debt and disgrace. The final blow came with the asset division. Claire pushed hard, and the court agreed. I kept the house, full custody of Lily, a majority stake in what was left of the company, and restitution from his share to repay my inheritance. Mark was left with scraps, a rusting truck, personal debt, and the clothes on his back. When the gavel fell, he sagged in his chair like the air had been punched out of him. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high, Lily's hand in mine. Outside, reporters swarmed. Questions flew. Ashley, how do you feel about the ruling? I smiled just enough for the cameras. I feel free. Weeks later, word spread that Mark had been evicted from his office space. Someone sent me a photo of him sitting on the curb outside, boxes stacked beside him. He looked small, defeated, nothing like the man who once strutted into restaurants with me on his arm. And for the first time since the night at Ella, I felt something close to peace. He wasn't just losing me. He was losing everything. He had gambled my loyalty against his ego, and he lost. It was almost poetic that our final confrontation happened in the empty shell of what used to be our home, the house we bought with my inheritance, the house I decorated, the house where Lily learned to walk, now stripped bare, echoes bouncing off the walls. The movers had already cleared most of it out. All that was left was a couch too old to bother hauling and the memories etched into the wood floors. Mark showed up uninvited, his shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow. Gone was the polished man in tailored suits. He looked smaller, unshaven, his shirt wrinkled, his shoes scuffed. For the first time in years, he looked human, but pitifully so. Ashley, he started, voice cracking. I needed to see you, to talk. One last time. I didn't offer him a seat. I stood with my arms crossed, leaning against the wall. Talk then. He ran a hand through his messy hair. I've lost everything. The business is gone. Investors pulled out. My dad won't return my calls. Jenna's long gone. I'm sleeping in my truck half the time. I don't even recognize myself anymore. His voice shook. I know I don't deserve your pity, but I'm begging you. Please, can we find some way back? For Lily? For us? The audacity almost made me laugh. For us? I repeated. You're only here because you've hit rock bottom. You didn't care about us when you canceled our anniversary dinner to sit across from her. You didn't care about us when you used my inheritance to bankroll your affair. Don't pretend this is about Lily, or me. This is about you. He flinched, but pressed on. I made mistakes. I was stupid. I let my ego run wild. But I can change, Ash. I swear I can change. We can rebuild. I shook my head slowly. You don't get it, do you? You think this is about a second chance. It's not. It's about consequences. You wanted the spotlight, the applause, the attention, and when you had it, you destroyed everything that actually mattered. You burned the bridge between us, and now you want me to pretend it's still standing. His eyes brimmed with tears. I still love you. I let out a bitter laugh. Love? If this is love, I'll take loneliness any day. He stepped closer, desperate now. Please, Ashley, just tell me what I have to do. Tell me how to make it right. I took a deep breath and met his gaze head on. You can't. That's the point. You built your empire on my back, and you tore it down with your lies. Every humiliation, every betrayal, every time you chose yourself over us. This is the result. You're the architect of your own destruction. The words hung heavy in the air, final and sharp. His face crumpled, and for a moment I thought he might collapse onto the couch. Instead, he just stood there, shoulders caving in, eyes wet, breathing shallow. I grabbed my keys from the counter and walked past him. At the door, I stopped and glanced back one last time. You wanted to see me? Fine. This is the last time you will. Get used to it. Then I walked out, the echo of my footsteps ringing through the empty house. Outside, the air was cool, the evening sky painted pink and gold. My car was packed, Lily's bag waiting in the back seat. I slid behind the wheel, exhaled, and started the engine. Through the window, I saw him standing in the doorway of the house, small and broken, watching me leave. For years, I had been the one left waiting, wondering when he'd come home. Not anymore. This time, I was the one walking away, and I wasn't looking back. A year later, I hardly recognized the woman in the mirror. Not because I looked different, though the dark circles had faded and there was a light in my eyes again, but because I felt different. Lighter. Stronger. Untethered. The divorce was finalized months ago, and the dust had settled. Lily and I moved into a smaller but brighter home on the east side of Sacramento, a place filled with sunlight and laughter instead of tension. She had her own room decorated exactly how she wanted. Posters, fairy lights, piles of books. Every time I heard her giggle in that space, I knew I'd made the right choice. I restarted my career, too. Real estate had always been my passion, and once I poured myself back into it, doors opened. Clients who had followed my story reached out, eager to support me. What Mark saw as humiliation, I turned into momentum. People admired resilience. They respected honesty. And I built my own reputation, not as someone's wife, but as Ashley Holmes, independent, capable, unstoppable. Meanwhile, Mark's downfall became background noise. After losing the business, he drifted from job to job, whispers about him following wherever he went. The last I heard, he was renting a room from a friend, scraping by. He still called sometimes, asking for another chance. But I didn't pick up anymore. There was nothing left to say. His voice belonged to a chapter I had closed. Lily adjusted better than I expected. She asked about her father less and less, and when she did see him under supervised visits, she came home quiet, thoughtful. Once, she looked at me and said, "Mom, I don't think Daddy knows how to be happy." Out of the mouths of children. I hugged her and told her that was why we had to make our own happiness, every single day. We did. Our happiness was Saturday morning pancakes, movie nights on the couch, road trips with the windows down and music blaring. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Real. Honest. Free of lies. Sometimes I drove past Ella dining room and caught myself remembering that night. The sting of betrayal, the slap that echoed, the walk out into the night air with my heart in pieces. I thought it would haunt me forever. Instead, it became the turning point. The night I stopped shrinking myself for someone else's comfort. The night I chose myself. If betrayal had taught me anything, it was this. People will show you who they are when they think you'll stay no matter what. The power comes when you prove them wrong. Now, when I looked at Lily, at our little home, at the life I'd rebuilt brick by brick, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt gratitude, not for the pain, but for the strength it forced me to find. Mark was a ghost of his own making, fading into irrelevance. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better, freedom. And freedom, I learned, is the sweetest kind of justice. Thank you so much for watching. If this story hit you, click the hype button and share your own thoughts or experiences down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And don't forget to hit subscribe and tap that like button for more powerful stories.